Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett. So we've been having a good time. We've been making videos for about an hour and a half now. I did one of the user lose it ones, and then I did a 3JS one, and now I'm doing my Angular voice analyzer. Um, so I will say that like something that I saw for the first time yesterday was like where I would do this. I would say like thing, and like it would give me sing with 75. Maybe that wasn't the right one. So like let's try it again. Um, thing. All right. So it gave me that with 62. So yesterday what I was yeah, so yesterday I did this, and like the very first value, and if you looked in the video yesterday, was finger, but it was only like 15% or point, like yeah, like yeah, like maybe 10% or something like that. And then thing was the second one, and now THYNG. I don't think I've ever seen that one. And THNG. But so yesterday that was happening, and so up until yesterday, I pretty much like the confidence wasn't always exactly what I wanted, but like it made think that I said something else, but it was more confident. But it always seemed to have in the very first spot what I wanted, what I thought I was saying, right? And then yesterday, suddenly things that were lower confidence and not what I thought would come in the first spot. And I would say that if we had a finished product and we were trying to use this finished product, like yesterday we would have had a whole bunch of bugs, because it would have been like, wait, it's not, it can't, it doesn't seem to be able to see the first. It doesn't seem to be. It seems to think I said something different, no matter how I said it. And it's not that it thought it didn't think I was saying finger, but for some reason it was giving finger in the first spot. It was giving me the finger, but then now today it's kind of back to what it was. But the thing is, we have to keep in mind is that, and how did it even get Bing out of that? But anyways, the thing we have to keep in mind is that like any assumptions we make about the order of values are going to be low. And what I would be very curious to have seen yesterday was if I was only getting one value back, would it have been finger, even though it had a low confidence that I was saying finger, or does it behave differently when there's one item versus two items? And those are the kind of things that we're just not going to be able to easily see in a finished product. In a finished product, you just everything, all the details are hidden from you, and that is the whole point to this. I didn't want to build some finished product in 2 weeks and then like start not understanding why in the world, not even having any option to even figure out why in the world things aren't working the way they used to work. These APIs, that underlying APIs, their behavior changes over time, and sometimes, as we have seen, it changes on a day-to-day basis, and you need some sort of way of being able to see what's going on. But another issue that we quite often run into in Angular is we need to make dialog boxes, and making a dialog box can be pretty straightforward. Um, you can. There's a lot of different things you can do to sort of achieve that. You can have a new, like everything else, hidden except for something, or so, kind of like the way we did this down here. Like in general, it's hidden, but then when you click on, when you mouse over it, and then you can click on it and keep it. But dialogues are a little bit trickier. Um, I definitely strongly suggest, especially if you're building a professional application, that you use like Angular material for that. And yes, it's going to be a pain. I don't know how smooth implementing Angular material is going to be for us now. I think it's gotten easier since standalone has become a thing, but there's just a lot of concepts in creating a dialog box in Angular Material. But the one thing that you get is, especially if you keep up with your updates, is you get like tabbing and accessibility pretty much working out of the box. Not 100%. Like, you still have to set up your tags and all that, but it is so much easier than trying to roll that yourself. And then even if you roll it yourself, there's such a good chance that um, the best the best the way it should be done, the best practices is going to change dramatically, and so you could end up spending hours and hours and hours um, trying to create something that interacts really well with some screen reader, and then find out that they've decided to go a whole different direction, and that's no joke. So, anyways, it's for me, it's good practice to get the Angular Material stuff working. So I want to go, and the easiest thing to do is kind of go to the Angular Material webpage, and usually I go there, Angular Material. And like I said, I don't know exactly how easy this is going to come. Sometimes if things have been set up, it's really simple, and then sometimes it's not. Um, So you kind of have it comes in two flavors. You have this bottom sheet thing, which basically means that it sort of comes up from the bottom, which really feels a lot like a mobile device. So when you have a mobile device and you do things, a lot of times they kind of come up. So it does a pretty good job. Let's see if we can kind of see it. See how it came up from the bottom. Um, that is a lot of places like that. A lot of places like that. So they only give you the one example. A lot of places like that, and they don't at first, and then they don't like it later. That's so weird. You've received a file called JPEG. That's weird. I don't know. That doesn't seem to have anything to do with what we're looking at there. Um, and then the other one is called Dialog, and Dialog kind of does like a pop-up and lets you do stuff like that. And some places like this, and some people like that. Now, you would think that if you implement a dialog and then you decided, you know what, I want the bottom sheet, or if you implemented the bottom sheet and you decide you want a dialog, that it would just be literally just a matter of changing components, and that's not true. There are some subtle differences, and it does take it. So like, it's like it's in your best interest to pick the right one first if you can, if you're making that decision. Um, so my sort of feeling is that it's probably um, in your best interest. I mean, if the majority of your users are going to be on a computer, you probably want dialogue, and if the majority of your users are going to be on mobile, you probably want um, the one that comes up for the bottom sheet, um, and that's just been my observation. I don't really, it doesn't get any deeper than that, my opinion on that. But anyway, so once you've decided that you want to use something in Angular Material, you're going to want to go find the component that you want. There really aren't that many of them. Um, and I think there's like entire books written on which thing to use when, and then which things are sort of part of other things and which things are not. Um, the you know, there's a lot. There's absolute lot to it, but I have never really dug into that stuff beyond just being able to use it. So I'm going to try to go use dialogue, and let's just see what that goes. As you could tell, I do have a bit of anxiety over this because it's just not as easy as it should be. Um, but then the thing is, like, the thing they don't really tell you here is that you're probably going to want to create a, a component that your dialogue is going to that your that this whole dialogue system is going to um, use. Um, so the first step is typically to create a component, which you don't really get that from looking at the API or look at the examples or anything like that. Let's look at this guy. So, so this is the HTML. It's a shame that it doesn't look a little better than this. Maybe if I make this bigger. So, um, here we have, here we have a whole, we have the HTML and then we have a whole nother HTML. And I believe this is like part of, let's see how they did that. Okay, so we have two components in one file, which is like literally I've never, ever worked at a place where they put two components in the same file. Here we did that, so it's a bit exotic. So you, but the takeaway from this is that you probably should create your own component that is specific for this dialogue. So this specific dialogue for me is Rhett, did I wear you out, Rhett? Are you tired? I love to play with fire, and I just played with fire because who knows, she may get really loud, and if you enjoy her antics, then you're welcome. But if you don't enjoy her antics, then I apologize. And I have absolutely no idea if most people enjoy when she starts making that crazy sound and starts getting all crazy back there. But anyways, so I'm going to create an object. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new dialogue, and it's going to live. It's only for discrete, so there'll be a different dialogue for continuous. I don't know if that's the right choice or not, but I think it is. And I'm going to call it discrete settings dialog. All right, so in order to do that, I'm going to go into my packages. And yeah, I like how, I used to just do this and then delete it, but I do like it. So it's probably a lot like the discrete results. So I'm just going to do that. So I'm just going to tell you up front, I'm not going to get this completely working today. I'm going to finish it up next Friday. So if you've been sitting through, I hate that. I hate it when people do what I just did to everybody. But yeah, next week on next Saturday, I'll finish implementing. I'm just going to create the dialog box and then go from there next week. So this is going to be discrete settings dialog. And it's going to be in components and discrete. It's going to be in the components folder. And it's going to be in the discrete folder. And then it's going to be called discrete settings dialog. So basically, I always like to picture what is going to happen. So I believe there's going to be a folder in here, and it's going to be called discrete settings dialog. And then within there will be 3 files. So npm run discrete dialog, and then I'm going to hit enter and keep an eye on here for a new folder. Oh man. All right, so I did that wrong. All right, so I put it in components and it should have been in component. So we're going to delete this. Continue. I don't know if that's going to work. So, that doesn't. Yes. Delete permanently. All right. So we actually want this to be in there, in component. It's probably a mistake to name it that way. And so we're going to rerun it. And that was actually, like, I've actually done stuff like that. Like, you'll work in places where they just have thousands and thousands of folders, and it's really hard to get it straight. And I know I've, like, completely built things, got them completely working, and then suddenly it was just like, oh, crap. All right, so here's the deal. All right, so we have, in here we have this component, and it's just hard coded, or it's just hard coded isn't the right word, but it's completely implemented inside with the other component that uses a reference to it, right? So this is a reference. So basically it's saying, hey, we're going to create a dialog reference, and it has a reference to our other component. So that you're not going to be able to do that directly. You're going to have to actually import this into here, and then you'll be able to create a reference, and then we'll be able to make a function that has this open dialog, call to open dialog, and it's not good, it's a bit of a pain in the butt. And then I'm guessing in their HTML export open dialog example. Okay, so now let's look at the HTML. So see, they have this function called open dialog, and I don't quite have it on the top of my head why this open dialog. Oh, okay, because this dialog animation example, and this one up here. Okay, this is dialog animations example. So this is a component, and then this is another one, dialog animations example dialog. Oh, okay, and so this one has gives the dialog function this dot dialog function, which is up here, which is created in here. So it gives it a reference to this thing, and then it has these settings. All right, so what we end up building is going to be quite different conceptually than this. It's going to be, well, identical conceptually, but it's the actual implementation is going to be different, and it's confusing. It's really, really confusing. So next week we will continue to head down this path to opening our dialog, and then we'll have to figure out how to make it to where when you do things in that dialog that it actually updates so that the main component knows what changes to make when you click the button and you say a word. So that's sort of I guess I can say it one more time. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to import this component that I just created. That component really won't have any relationship with the component where the user clicked the button. It's going to be a completely separate relationship there. And then it's going to somehow communicate to the service that, hey, the next time the user pushes that button I guess there's no reason to be abstract about this. Next time they push this button, these are the settings I want you to use. Because the thing is when you push this button, that is when the whole the whole object that sort of handles all this stuff is created when you push this button. It doesn't exist until you push the button. So what happens when you click the cog and that thing pops up and you make changes, like it has to know the next time you push the button what the changes were. And this m- this application makes heavy use of signals, so we'll use signals for that. Um, it's like just a lot of moving parts. It's not particularly complicated. If problem is that it's not particularly complicated if you understand a bunch of complicated stuff. So if you're confused and all that, it doesn't it makes sense, because there are a lot of moving parts here. Hopefully at the end of this, like when I go to check this stuff in and we're going over all of the files, that'll all make sense. I do think that the actual implementation of the Angular Material Dialog is not going to be very clear from this the example of what I'm doing. Um, I find it to be extraordinarily, like the very first time I ever had to do it. It probably took me like I was like working at a place where we had like 2 weeks to do um, a sprint, and that was like one tiny part of everything I was supposed to get done in that sprint. And so, they call it a 2 week sprint, but it's really 10 days. And then you spend one day doing nothing but ceremonies and stuff. So I had 9 days. I used like one third of it, maybe even 4 days of it, just trying to get the dialogue working the first time. And then, I think the next time I had to do it, it took me 3 days to get the dialogue working. Fortunately, I was good on everything else, so I was able to move very fast on everything else, but that had me jammed up. And then again, the next time it was one day, and now usually I can get it done in 15, 20 minutes. But it is weird. It's just weirdly difficult. Um, and it's definitely easier in this standalone scenario than it is in the, like if you have a bunch of modules and stuff like that, and the way things get imported, it can be extraordinarily confusing to try to figure out how to get it to work. So, anyways, yeah, so that's that. We are making good progress. I would imagine the next video will probably just be about getting that pop up working, and getting the dialogue working, and then um, the video after that, I would imagine, will be about getting all the settings communicated back up, and then kind of the next video will probably be about just playing with the settings and figuring it out and seeing what we get, and then probably a big commit will happen at that point, and then we'll um, move on to the API tab, and then we'll go over and basically redo this whole thing for continuous, and then the I think that once that's done, which that'll probably be several weeks to get that done. Once that's done, this project will be done. We will be all done with this project. I'll push it out somewhere so that I have access to it in the future, and then we'll figure out what we want to build next. There's so many freaking cool things that we could build um, based on this technology, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.